Between a dream and reality. My name is John Terrell. I am 39 years old, married, and have 16-year-old twin sons. I have been a heavy equipment operator for the last 20 years. I enjoy my job and make a good living. My marriage sucks. It's Friday and it's raining like a bucket, which means I'm not working today. I'm standing at one of the front doors of the Green Dragon Farmers Market and watching my wife Marcia and her boyfriend rummage through one of the trinket trays just inside. My thick rain jacket makes me almost impossible to recognize without looking me in the face, but I stay outside anyway. I've been following them for the last half hour. No kisses, but they hold hands and hug a lot. A sudden flurry of excitement indicated that they had found something interesting. She held it up in front of him and smiled. It was a white, puffy Michelin keychain. She couldn't get the money out of her wallet fast enough. I watched as he hung up the keychain, and she gave him a hug and a kiss on the cheek. After another 30 minutes, they were back in the parking lot. They were halfway to Reading when they both pulled up to the Sunset Motel. I took the license plate off his F-150 and then went home, took off my raincoat and changed into a suit. I've been big all my life, not fat or flabby, but not strong or muscular either. I wasn't particularly beautiful either. I didn't fit in with anyone. I can't say I ever had a girlfriend, and I didn't date anyone until senior prom. Marcia Blanchard was in the same social class as me. She was overweight and flabby. She had acne and suffered from a lack of self-care skills. Her closet consisted of secondhand clothes and Walmart specials. When I invited her to go to prom with me, she was thrilled. She had pretty much decided it was a hopeless endeavor. Things went smoothly from there, and within a year we were married. I was head over heels in heavy equipment training, and Marcia was pregnant and barefoot. After the birth of our twins, things seemed to stabilize. Soon we had our own home, 2 cars, and a comfortable lifestyle. However, 2 major changes occurred. The more I worked, the stronger I became. Unfortunately, I still looked the same. Marcia teased me a bit about it. In her case, it was completely different. Marcia got a $10 a month gym membership and used it regularly. She taught herself how to do her own hair and makeup. She went jogging every day. That's when the trouble started. We weren't a couple anymore. She was now a hot chick being ridden by an ogre. Over the years, she seemed to have lost interest in sex and anything even remotely resembling romance. Our relationship was becoming platonic. The boys were approaching 17 when I decided to address the situation, which is exactly what I was doing today. "Hey, sweetie, what are you doing home?" Never mind, I get it. The weather." She mumbled something as she entered the hallway. She put 2 canvas bags full of fresh vegetables on the table. "The market was full today. I couldn't find a piece of the white corn you like." She was nervous. She talked a lot when she was nervous. I just smiled and nodded my head. "I'm going to get out of these wet clothes and take a quick shower. I'll be downstairs in a second and get dinner ready. Are the boys home yet?" I smiled again and nodded my head, showing that no. I wasn't trying to be a smartass on purpose. I just wasn't feeling very social. In fact, I was on the verge of tears when the boys burst through the door. When they turned 16, I bought them an old Jeep CJ. I thought it would be both fun and safe. Anyway, they loved it. "Hey, you'd be a lot drier if you covered that thing with a tarp." "Yeah, Dad, we know, but it's no fun at all." Their grammar was terrible. They took off their boots and coats before heading upstairs for a shower. Why hadn't I thought of that? I sat there, still wet from the day's walk. Dinner conversation was the usual, but I wasn't in the mood to participate. Marcia asked me if anything was wrong, and I just said I was tired. I had a few friends in poor neighborhoods, so I was able to track down my wife's lover with no problem. Todd Langford was 35 years old, single, and still living with his parents. That explained why they were staying at the motel. He worked as a forklift operator for Acme Boot Company from 4 p.m. to midnight. That company had moved to town about 6 years ago and was located in one of the old buildings on the banks of the Schuylkill River. Todd was previously married and divorced. While the boys were in school and I was at work, Marcia had free days to spend with her lover. It happened so gradually that I didn't realize it, but I started spending more money on beer. I was terribly depressed, but I never showed it. This character trait developed in my childhood. My wife noticed the gradual increase in beer consumption, and mentioned it a few times and then stopped. Sex with Marcia became so devoid of any emotion that I lost interest in it altogether. I didn't lose interest in sex, only in sex with Marcia. I didn't usually go to bed after we usually tucked in, sipping tea and waiting for her to fall asleep. I didn't tap her phone or computer, but I did install a GPS in her car. I didn't follow her all the time, but I watched her daily commute in the evenings on the computer. Todd must have been taking advantage of the discount at the Sunset Motel because they traveled there several times a week. Marcia and Todd continued their relationship. Over the next 2 years, our married life became boring as hell. We had no vacations, no weekend trips, or even evenings spent away from home. Marcia brought it up a few times, but quickly changed it after noticing my negative reaction. Since we'd been married, I'd been saving 10% of my paycheck for retirement. I discreetly transferred that money to a new account at a different bank. I also set aside money for the boys' college tuition. They were both graduating in 2 months, and there was another surprise. Robert was going to join the Air Force, and Roland had chosen the Coast Guard. I transferred the money from the college fund to my new account. It was about this time that I realized Marcia and Todd were probably waiting for the boys to finish school to give me the bad news. I decided I had to do something about it in the next 60 days. And then along came Hazel. Hurricane Hazel was a freak of nature. Storms like this were rare in our area. They were rare this time of year, and by the time they came here, they were usually downgraded to tropical storms. All government offices and most businesses were closed. As a member of the County Emergency Rescue Squad, I was ready to come to the rescue if needed. Fortunately, I had a Jeep, but it was still not weatherproof. Marcia was not happy that I was traveling out in bad weather, but I had a plan. Robert and Roland were volunteers at a local shelter, so I dropped them off on the way to their destination. Throughout the day, the radio announced the closing of all stores. There was still no word from Acme Boot. It had rained for the past 2 days, so all the creeks, rivers, and lowlands were flooded. I parked in the back of the Acme shoe warehouse next to Todd's truck and watched the shift workers leave from time to time. The Schuylkill River on the south side of the parking lot was bubbling by this time. Finally, I saw Todd approaching. His head was down and he was leaning into the wind, trying to keep his balance as he made his way toward the truck. I knew what I kept that old aluminum bat for. I only hit him once when he reached for his keys. I must have hit him harder than I thought. I had no intention of killing him, but being a little inexperienced, I may have overdone it. Oh well, now it was too late. I grabbed his legs and dragged his body towards the roaring river. The riverbank wasn't an ordinary riverbank, but an artificial one, made of chunks of old concrete and asphalt. Stumbling, I finally got close enough to lower his body into the water. For a moment, he just floated there, and suddenly a current picked him up and dragged him under the water. In a few seconds, he was gone. I went back for the bat and saw a keychain on the ground by the car door. I smiled as I picked it up. I tossed the bat into the river and noticed that it floated rather than sinking. I guess it was hollow. 20 minutes later, I was already working with the boys at the orphanage. 2 days later, Hazel was over. Todd Langford was found 3 days later, about 20 kilometers downstream. It was officially announced that the death was caused by a storm. Naturally, Marcia was devastated but couldn't say anything or even express the degree of grief she was feeling. I remained stoic. She spent the next week at her mother's house. While Marcia was gone, I spent the entire time preparing to leave. I wasn't going to divorce for several reasons, but the main one was that I was never going to get married again. My credit rating had taken a big hit, but that didn't matter anymore either. Todd was gone, and there was no way in hell I was going to become her backup. Until she met Todd, I'd always been her first. First boyfriend, first lover, first husband. Now I'd be second. Robert left for Lackland, and Roland left 2 days later. Marcia and I were left all alone, and there was no warmth or any reconciliation between us. As strange as it may sound, we never quarreled or discussed the fact that we were drifting apart. She had no reason not to trust me, and she had no reason to assume I knew about her and Todd. I think she knew I was unhappy, but didn't know why and didn't want to ask. Monday, I spent all day finalizing things. I left her power of attorney for both cars and the house. It was still 13 years away from paying a mortgage she wouldn't be able to afford. Marcia had never had a job and had no real job skills. On top of the papers, I put my wedding ring and a small Michelin keychain, but the keys weren't there. I left her $1,000 in the bank. I'm sure she could put two and two together. I had no idea why I had decided to take the Jeep.